Warning: this video contains mentions of sexual assault. Viewer discretion is advised. Christmas Day, 1994. In Tucson, Arizona's south side, the Galaz family spent the day mourning instead of celebrating. 5 days earlier, 6-year-old Esther Lizette Galaz was viciously stolen and murdered, leaving her Christmas presents unopened and her 4 siblings, mother, and stepfather devastated. Between 1993 and 1994, Tucson's Hispanic-dominated South Side became a hunting ground for a sexual predator who abducted multiple young girls and assaulted them in the desert. Many of those girls survived, but little Esther did not, leaving the community to wonder if there was more than one monster stalking their children. Unfortunately, just over a year later, another young girl disappeared from the community. January 1996. 7-year-old Karen Grajeda vanished just steps away from her home and was never seen again. Today on Dark Matters, the murder of Esther Lizette Galaz and the disappearance of Karen Grajeda. On October 15, 1988, 26-year-old Rosalba Lozoya gave birth to a baby girl, Karen Rosalba Grajeda. Around a year later, Rosalba had another daughter, Alejandra, and in January of 1996, the trio lived in the Saguaro Crest apartments on Valencia Street, where Alejandra and Karen shared a pink and white bedroom. Rosalba and the girl's father, Mr. Grajeda, were both from Mexico, where Grajeda worked as a fisherman in Guayamas. Karen attended first grade at Elvira Elementary, learning to read, write, and sing. With her bright smile and kind demeanor, she easily made friends with the other children in her apartment complex. After school, she loved to play on her Nintendo, roller skate, ride bikes, and frolic with the other children in the complex's courtyard, the last place Karen was ever seen. Esther Lizette Galaz also vanished from her Southside apartment complex, Raya Verde, on December 19, 1994. Her family had only moved there 2 weeks prior to her disappearance. Esther loved to sing, was intelligent, and also had a kind demeanor, but a predator stole Esther's potential and her family's right to watch her grow up. Around 6:20 p.m. on December 19, 1994, 6-year-old Esther asked her mother if she could play with her friends outside their apartment. But her mother needed to rush to the convenient mart next door, so she said no. She told Esther's eldest sibling, 11 years old, to watch the children, stay inside, and she would return shortly. Esther didn't want to wait. Wearing a white t-shirt and flowery pink shorts, she ventured outside to find her mom and never returned. Just over a year later, on Thursday, January 11, 1996, 7-year-old Karen returned home from Elvira Elementary. After cleaning her room and playing the Nintendo, she roller skated with neighbors in the apartment courtyard. Rosalba periodically checked on her daughters and their friends as the afternoon turned to evening. Around 6 p.m., Karen came inside and asked to play a bit longer. Rosalba agreed, but just until dinner was ready. Karen traded her skates for sneakers and returned to the courtyard. A half hour later, Rosalba calls her daughters inside for dinner. Alejandra returns, but Karen does not. The other children said they last saw Karen walking out of the courtyard. No one saw a struggle or heard any screams, but Rosalba immediately contacted authorities. Less than 2 hours after Esther Galaz vanished, police began a wide-scale search and questioned everyone in the vicinity, hoping someone might have seen something. 2 children recounted a man driving a light blue or silver pickup truck telling a young girl resembling Esther in Spanish to come here. The two argued for a moment before he forced her into his truck and drove away. This was around 6:30 p.m., the same time Esther's siblings said she wandered off. Police felt that the witnesses saw Esther being abducted, but there's no trace of her. The next day, a man walking his dogs near the Tucson Baptist Temple noticed something down in the 15-foot drainage ditch among the litter and trash beneath an abandoned mattress. The body of a little girl, blood pooled beneath her. Authorities confirmed the body was Esther Lizette Galaz. She'd been sexually assaulted and badly beaten before being dumped like trash. Over a year later, authorities searched the area where Esther's body was found, hoping to find a trace of Karen Grajeda. But their 9-square-mile search of the south side turned up nothing. Police set up a command post in a vacant lot just east of the Saguaro Crest apartments, and garbage collection in the area halted so officers could sift through dumpsters. The Tucson Airport Authority searched the desert surrounding their jurisdiction, and as news coverage expands, family, friends, neighbors, and strangers alike made their way to the command post. Some left with fistfuls of flyers to pass out. Others joined search efforts alongside police. Around 120 concerned police and citizens searched on foot, bicycle, all-terrain vehicles, horseback, and helicopters, looking in drainage ditches, tunnels, alleys, and nearby apartment complexes, going door to door. A large billboard featuring a portrait of Karen, painted by artist Jose Villabrie, looked out over South Nogales Highway and East Drexel Road. 4 days later, law enforcement made little progress in finding Karen. A special 10-member task force of Tucson police officers took over, following 300 possible leads. One woman reported seeing a girl resembling Karen at Southwest Supermarkets, 2 blocks from the Saguaro Crest apartments, and a half hour after she vanished. The witness said the girl looked at cassettes and seemed upset. It is unknown if the girl was Karen, but nothing came of this tip. Tucson PD talked to registered sex offenders in the area and traveled to Mexico, where they passed Karen's information on to law enforcement. They questioned her father, Mr. Grajeda, who was cleared of any involvement, as was the rest of Karen's family. The worried father immediately flew back to Tucson to look for Karen. Family and friends surrounded Rosalba, comforting the panicked mother. Rosalba, hysterical and unable to sleep or eat since Karen went missing, was briefly hospitalized, and Karen's sister and cousins were reportedly inconsolable. At a public vigil appealing for information, Karen's aunt begged the abductor to return her niece. Have a bit of compassion for her mother. Return her as she is, alive or dead, because we need to end this torment. In the crowd was Esther Galaz's mother, who heard of Karen's disappearance and felt a painful connection. She knew Rosalba's suffering all too well. The community mourned, and a year later, a potential and strange clue surfaced. 3 p.m., April 15th, 1997. An employee at the University of Arizona's College of Law library phones authorities to report a message written in blue ink and partially smeared on one of the library tables. It read, "I was taked away from my house. Karen Grajeda. The man is my daddy." The employee said she hadn't seen any children in the library and didn't know how long the message had been there. The library tables were refinished the summer after Karen vanished, so the writing had to have come after that. But authorities couldn't determine if the message was legitimate or the work of a twisted prankster. Media attention for Karen's case died down, but authorities worked tirelessly to keep Karen's face and story in the public eye. In August of 1996, her photo reached 61 million residents on a weekly mailbox coupon. Then, in October, Telemundo, the international Spanish-language television network, featured her disappearance. In 2000, Karen's face appeared on Purely Sedona water bottles sold in Arizona, California, and Nevada. False rumors that Karen had been found hindered public and media interest and wasted precious time law enforcement could have been following legitimate leads. Rosalba, who only spoke Spanish, had few resources to keep the case alive in the public eye. She didn't have the funds to pay for a story or hire a private investigator. Energy drained, Rosalba kept to herself in the apartment, the only source of light from the flickering candles illuminating pictures of her missing daughter, hoping the saints and her prayers might light her way home. For both Esther and Karen, answers are nearly non-existent, but their cases have eerie similarities that detectives can't ignore. FBI agent Tom Basham of Tucson's office says they haven't dismissed the possibility that Esther and Karen's disappearances are connected. Both Karen and Esther were Hispanic, close to one another in age, and both were wearing flowery shorts and t-shirts when taken. They were both taken just outside their apartment complexes in South Tucson around 6:30 p.m. and close to the Christmas and New Year's holidays. There are two main theories thought to be possibly connected to their cases. Theory number 1, unidentified man. According to law enforcement, an unidentified man seen in the area where Karen disappeared might be responsible. Described as either Hispanic or Caucasian by authorities, he was anywhere from 30 to 46 years old in 1996, standing between 5'6" and 5'8", and weighing 170 pounds. He also had light brown hair, green or hazel eyes, and possibly sported a mustache. Some think he could be related to Esther's murder as well, but most law enforcement on Karen's case believes the man who committed the abductions is already behind bars for similar crimes. Theory number 2, Rodolfo Cedeno Morales. We do not know the extent of the unidentified male's crimes, if any, but Morales' crimes are clearer. Between 1993 and 1994, 3 young Hispanic girls between 7 and 8 years old told police of their horrific abductions in Tucson's South Side. On separate occasions, a man they didn't know abducted each girl near their homes, then drove them to the desert and sexually assaulted them. Upon returning the victims to their abduction sites, he threatened to kill their mothers if they told anyone. In 1993, 2 more Hispanic girls, 5 and 9 years old, had similar accounts. A man promised them candy, grabbed them once inside his apartment, and made sexual advances towards them. Police eventually put a name to the predator, Rodolfo Cedeno Morales. Children at the Rodeo View apartment complex in Tucson knew him to pass out candy to the complex's children. He'd also built a bench for kids to sit on right outside his unit, but it seems that was for nefarious purposes. Through witness testimony and a DNA sample found in one of his victims' underwear, Morales was convicted in 1998 on 5 charges of molestation, 5 kidnapping charges, and 1 count each of sexual abuse, sexual indecency, and sexual conduct with a minor, totaling 13 felony charges. He is serving a minimum of 100 years in prison and a max of 248. Law enforcement believes that Morales and the unidentified man mentioned in Theory 1 are 2 different individuals. Esther Lizette Galaz was murdered within a month of one of Morales' abductions in the same area. Law enforcement said 2 children saw a girl resembling Esther being forced into the light blue or silver truck by a man who spoke Spanish, was Hispanic, in his early 40s with salt and pepper hair, a dark mustache, and a medium build. It is unknown if this description or vehicle matches Morales at the time of her murder. In connection with Karen's case, Morales lived in the same apartment complex as Karen in 1996 at the time she was abducted. The day after she disappeared, police received a call saying Morales could have been involved. They questioned him, but his wife vouched for his whereabouts the night of her abduction. Still, a former Tucson detective who worked Karen's case said most investigators believe Morales was responsible for the disappearance. But if Morales is guilty, there's never been enough evidence to connect, charge, and convict him in either case. The girls' mysteries live on with painful consequences. Karen and Esther never met, but they were both kind and shared a love of singing. Their cases are a dark memory that haunts the Tucson community to this day. Former Tucson Police Detective Kathy Rao, who worked on Karen's case, carries it with her even after her retirement.
I retired after 25 years. I was walking out the door, and I remember the door closed. And my first thought was, you never found Karen. And you promised you would never stop looking. So what are you going to do now? So that really laid heavy on my heart.
After hearing about Karen's disappearance, Esther Lizette's stepfather, Martin Lopez, helped search for her in the days after she vanished, saying her disappearance hit home. Esther's sister echoed that painful sentiment, saying, "It's just a wound you can never fix." Family and friends watched Esther be lowered into the ground in a white coffin on a rainy day. Her gravesite was decorated with plastic flowers and Santa figures. The pain never healed for Karen's family either. Rosalba lost her job, but still managed to gather $2,500 in reward money for information on Karen's abduction. Her family helped her move into a small cottage, away from the apartment that held so many painful memories. Alejandra, Karen's younger sister, feared being taken as well, afraid to venture outside of her own home. Mother and daughter confined themselves indoors, and Rosalba kept the lights off most of the time, praying at her homemade vigil for Karen's safe return. Rosalba later had another daughter, Daniela, who never got to meet her eldest sister. Despite the case being featured on America's Most Wanted, Karen's case has never been solved, and Esther's murderer never brought to justice. Esther Lizette Galaz was sexually assaulted and murdered on December 19, 1994. She was possibly forced into an older model light blue or silver pickup truck in the parking lot of the Raya Verde apartment complex, while wearing pink floral patterned shorts and a white t-shirt. The man seen arguing with her was Hispanic, in his early 40s, with salt and pepper hair, a dark mustache, and a medium build. He spoke Spanish. Karen was 7 years old at the time she vanished. She was 3 feet 5 inches tall, weighed 50 pounds, had black hair and brown eyes, pierced ears, and is classified as a Hispanic female, specifically of Mexican descent. She was wearing a faded purple t-shirt with white lettering on the front, multicolored pastel floral printed shorts, brand Guess shoes, a gold chain with a pendant reading Little Angel, and she sported 2 rings, one with a red stone, the other engraved with the letter K. She was missing several baby teeth at the time, and her upper right front tooth was larger than her other teeth. She also had a pea-sized mole behind one of her ears. She speaks both Spanish and English, and her case is classified as a non-family abduction. If alive, she would be 29 years old. The cases are possibly connected, but if you have any information on either case, Karen's disappearance or current whereabouts, or Esther Galaz's murder, please contact the Tucson Police Department at 520-791-4444. Special thanks to the Patreon family. The names you all see on screen are just some of the people who financially contribute to this channel, whether they are passionate about cases like Karen and Esther's, or the other dark content on this channel. Their support cannot be overstated. If you are interested in supporting the channel, information is in the description, but even if you only continue to support by watching and sharing, thank you. Thank you for giving Esther and Karen's cases a moment of your time, and my heart goes out to their family and friends. They've gone too long without answers, and we all hope for justice someday so that closure can begin. And no matter what you choose to believe or what you speculate, I ask you only for respect in the comments below, and remember, though these may be dark matters, the darkness always matters. Thank you all for watching the video. Exposure to cases such as Esther and Karen's is highly important, and thank you all for your continued support and for always receiving these cases openly and respectfully. Stay safe, friends, and have a good night.